Todd Richards here, Roots, Hearts,
and Soul.
Stefan and I are launching this podcast based off cookbook Roots, Heart, and Soul by myself, Todd Richards, with a great help from Chef Stefan, the man, the myth, the legend himself.
Oh, you stop, you. We have such a beautiful history together.
I mean, it's crazy. Really, what people are going to get from this podcast is telling the story of Afro people, Afro cuisine.
We're going to be telling the story of the Pan-African diaspora.
Roots, heart, soul of the world, as we say. We are launching in a couple of weeks here, some terrific guests. Stay tuned. Follow us on all our social media at Chef Todd Richards in all formats. Chef Stefan, what's yours?
ChefStefan.it, AYITI. This is the correct way to say Haiti.
Well, we're getting education already.
So if you want to find out more, if you want to listen to great stories being told by amazing, amazing culinary talents, we're going to be hearing stories from Africa all the way to the Caribbean, all the way to the Americas. It's going to be something special.
Giving everyone the good rhythm, the good vibes.
Yeah, baby.
We look forward to seeing everyone. Talk soon.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Want to taste a flight of rare agave spirits at Rick Bayless's award-winning Bar Sotano? Or on La Barca Cantina, the storied taco boat touring New York's Hudson River? Or do you want to drink a special lager from the Maine Beer Company? Or how about coffee? Want to start your morning with a Mexican roast from the genius crew at Dark Matter? Well, you can do all those things and support Sacred in the process. Sacred is a not-for-profit that helps improve quality of life in the rural Mexican communities that make heritage agave spirits. We ask mezcalerx's what problems they have, what solutions they imagine to resolve those problems, and what resources they need to enact those solutions. Then we go out and try to find those resources for them. All of those businesses I just mentioned, Bar Sotano, La Barca Cantina, Maine Beer Company, and Dark Matter Coffee, all of them have special offerings on right now that support Sacred. To learn more about these supportive, creative ventures, visit sacredagave.org/fun. That's sacredagave.org/fun, because real fun is also doing real good.
Agave Road Trip. Agave Road Trip.
Hey, road trippers! So this is hardly the first time that somebody has had post-Agave Road Trip regrets. You know, like they appeared on the show or they did an interview with me and then they regretted it. But this is certainly the first time where somebody said, and you know, you've now clicked on this. You're listening to the episode, and the name of the episode starts with the phrase horse piss. So it won't surprise you when I say that the person I interviewed maybe had a little regret about talking about some horse piss in their mezcal. So we have removed the name of the mezcalerx that the interview was with, that the episode is with, and we've changed their voice throughout to make them unidentifiable. I don't want anybody to... Anybody? No, I don't want this particular mezcalerx to get splashed back with their own horse urine. So, with that, I will let you take it away once again, Roy. Start up the music.
Agave Road Trip.
I'm Lou Bank. I'm unknown mezcalerx from unnamed agave spirits brand. And this is Agave Road Trip, the critically acclaimed award-winning podcast that helps Gringex bartenders better understand agave spirits, and rural Mexico. So I talk about the 400 decisions that a mezcalerx makes when they are in production, using these pre-industrial methods to make their spirits that determine the flavor of the spirit. You know, people will say, oh, the most important thing is the fermentation. Well, it's important, but is it the most important? How do you know? Because there's, you know, how hot is the oven and what kind of wood did you use in the oven? How long did you leave it? You said 5 days. Was it really 4 days, 20 hours and 6 minutes? Or was it 5 days, 1 hour? Like there's all of these 400 decisions, right? But one thing that I've kind of always thought about in the back of my mind is what are the outside things that happen to this? And there's one, I'm going to talk first about what you brought up, but there's something that's been in the back of my head in this process that I think contributes to the flavor that no one talks about. But you brought one up that shocked me. You know what I'm talking about?
Not really.
Horse piss. So you had talked to.
I said that.
You did say that, right? So you talked about your horse, Mr. Ed, walking around like pulling the Tahona as the agave is being milled. The cooked agave is being milled by Mr. Ed, and he walks around, and every once in a while he's going to poop, and that's not a big deal. That's going to be outside the circle, as we'll call it.
Outside the Tahona.
Outside the Tahona. So the Tahona is more than just the wheel. It's the entire contraption.
Yes.
Okay. So outside the Tahona. But when Mr. Ed, like he's going to leak on the ground outside of it, but you and I have both urinated. And there's often splashing. Sometimes it gets on our pants or shoes. Yeah.
Or
and so sometimes
agave.
it gets in our mezcal.
Oh, not on our mezcal, on the agave. Inside the Tahona.
Wow, you just threw up like, no, there's no. But you're saying that there is some in there.
In the agave.
In the agave.
We are processing to make mezcal.
But it has to contribute to the flavor. What did the horse eat or drink?
Usually alfalfa, greens.
Well, you said your horse also eats cooked agave.
Cooked agave, a lot of cooked agave.
So it's like concentrated cooked agave gets added to the cooked agave, right?
Well, I don't know. Because, I see that it happens in the process. But because that's our OSHA process, we always use the agave here.
Yep.
So I don't know, maybe I need to make, a different batch when the horse pees and the horse doesn't pee. Or I don't know, because I don't know if there is a difference in the flavor. Because, we're passing it to a purifying process where we are extracting the alcohol from our agave.
Well, look, once you distill, anything that could hurt you, aside from the alcohol itself, right, is gone. So it's not like you're drinking, but it has to influence the flavor. And these are the things...
Maybe the yeast. It does affect the yeast because it's going to be a different yeast. Depending on the bacteria of the horse piece.
Okay, so there's that, but the other thing that I've been thinking about a lot in the process is human sweat, right? Like the beauty of this process of making these spirits that I love so much, right, is that it's hands, it's human beings using their hands, and human beings when they're using their hands and they're working, they're going to sweat, and sweat by nature is salty. And I've commented a lot about how much I like to combine when I'm eating sushi or sashimi, really, the raw fish, the briny nature of raw fish with the mezcal, because you got the minerality of the water, I always say, that was included in the fermentation, when you get your water from wells and like that, right? That's the brininess, but I think some of it is literally the sweat from human beings, the salt from human beings that affects the flavor.
Yes. Well, it's a very hard question because when I've tried industrial mezcal, and it's very different to mezcal, to artisanal mezcal, but it's very similar to tequila.
How do you mean?
The flavor.
Oh, the flavor. Okay, yeah. The process and the flavor. The
process is similar to tequila, so the flavor is similar to tequila too. But to those tequilas that, and I don't want to say brands, but I have some tequileros friends, and I tried their tequilas from the stills, and it's very different when I try it from the bottle, because I don't know if it's only when they lower the ABV to 28 or to 40.
Yeah, there's going to be that for sure. Yeah.
And because I know there is a big topic about that issue too, about using different things.
Yeah.
When I don't know, when they will say fixing it.
Yeah.
Or I will say measuring it for the bottle.
Finishing it, sure.
Finishing it, I don't know what word to use, but I really like the tequila from the stills. But the flavor is very similar to the mezcal produced in an industrial way.
So you're saying the difference is the sweat and the horse piss?
I'm not sure if it's that, but I'm sure it helps. It makes a difference.
What else am I forgetting? What are the other things that are like the factors that we don't consider? What can you think of that I'm maybe not considering like that could be in the process?
So in the other palenque we're not using horses.
Oh.
And I need to make a tasting between the production here and the production in the other palenque to see if it tastes like sweat or horse pee.
Well, but there's so many different factors. I don't know how you could go, oh, the difference here is horse piss, right? But I think of like another thing that
it does taste different.
Oh, sure.
I know,
I mean, even just being in a different place, though, the difference could just be the different yeasts, right? The different bacteria.
The agave is coming from a different place. The water is from a different well.
Yep.
Well, there are a lot of things that make a difference, but I'm not sure which one of those things make a big difference. You know?
Okay, so let me
everything is going to make a difference.
Well, that's my point, right? Everything is, and I've always talked about it in terms of that process. But this is what I want to talk about here is some of those things we don't think about. And here's another one I'm just thinking about now, right? Is I see all these fruit flies around fermenters, and sometimes there's a berry and sometimes they're not. I'm wondering, fruit flies get in, what are they doing in there, right? Fruit flies, they got to be. Are they having sex in the fermenter? Are they dying in the fermenter? Are they cramping in the fermenter?
It's a big party in the fermenter.
It's a party in the fermenter.
Yes.
Okay, so
with all those flies,
with the places
the
that
more sugar you're gonna have in your agave, it's gonna be a bigger party.
A bigger party. So those
flies.
fruit flies are contributing in some way.
Well, they are part of the process because they love the sugars. You're gonna have a banana in your kitchen. You're gonna have those flies.
Yeah.
So whenever you have sugars, especially from fruits, or from agave, you're gonna have those flies. I don't know if they contribute because I've seen a lot of them dying and staying in the fermented, but I don't know if there is a flavor difference when in the amount of flies, because you will have sometimes more, sometimes less, but you will always have those flies.
Okay, so are there any other factors like that you can think of that we don't normally talk about?
The water source.
The water source we talk about all the time. That's an easy thing.
No, but when you are taking down your ABV.
Oh, okay. Tell me.
And that's part of our recipe and part of our, let's say, secret recipe about our different labels or brands we work with. The different water source when we measure the ABV.
Yeah, but water source isn't nearly as fun to talk about as human sweat and horse piss.
Well,
so here's another one that I heard from the producer, right? And I'm not going to name the brand because I'm guessing the importer would get angry at me. But I heard from a producer that the way they mill the cooked, I won't say it's agave because it's not, but the cooked product that is fermented is they lay it out on a warehouse floor, and they bring their cattle in, and the cattle start like eating the cooked product and walking around on it, and it's literally their hooves that end up milling it. But I grew up in the Midwest, and I know what cattle do when they're eating. Do you know what they do?
No.
They poop. There's poop coming out of them, right? And so the poop is literally integrated with the milled product, and then they ferment it.
Well, I think that I've heard it with pulque. They use, cow poo.
Well, but that I've heard goat and cow, but not in the product. Always to insulate the fermenter.
Well, they put it inside the clay pot, and then they put a bag, and then they add the pulque.
So the pulque never comes in contact with it.
It does because it's not up. I
It's
think
porous.
It does.
I've only ever heard it was on the outside of the fermenters in order to insulate, and I feel like that story was literally, like the way I understand it, that story was spread by the beer companies to reduce consumption of pulque. Right?
Maybe big companies do everything.
Yeah,
do a lot of things.
yeah. But I find all of these things really interesting, and things we don't talk about. So here's another thing, right? Is when you're using that engine to pull the wheel of the Tahona, right? If you're using a gas-powered engine, aren't you getting some of the fumes of the gas?
Well, in all of those issues about production, it's really hard to measure. So it's really hard to tell if it does or not a difference. So I heard one producer that he said, if you're using a shredder to smash your agave, it's like when you're squeezing a lime with your hand, or you're using a lime squeezer, and this
Yeah, I know
the bitter flavor comes out.
Yeah, it changes the flavor.
It changes the flavor.
I get that.
But I don't know if that really applies to the agave, because I heard they made the comparison with the agave, because they said there are brands that use a shredder and we only use a Tahona.
I would think that there'd also be a difference in that a shredder is going to generate some heat, so it's going to do additional cooking. But that's, again, not as fun as human sweat and horse piss or a cow poop.
But when you are using a shredder with gas,
yeah,
it's going to create this smoke from the gas.
Yeah.
So it's not nice.
Well, hey, I gotta be honest. As a kid, and still to this day, but I remember as a kid, anytime we would fill up the tank of our car, I'd want to go stand next to the pump because I loved the smell of gasoline.
Well, but that's different to smell of smoke from the gasoline.
Okay,
combustion.
That's fair.
That's very different. So maybe I like a little bit the smell of gasoline, but I don't like at all the smell of the burned gasoline.
Okay, so let me throw one more at you, and then we'll wrap this up. But when I see the palenqueros, right, or vinateros, or taberneros, walking around with their machetes that they use, or the axes that they use to cut the agave, I also think, what else did they cut with that? And it's probably like weeds and stuff, but at some point you're having a fiesta and you've just cooked a whole cow underground and you pull it out, and what are you going to use to cut that cow into smaller pieces?
Well, I don't know, but I'm really sure that in Matatlan or in Oaxaca, in the places I have visited, always they have tools for food and tools for work.
Seriously?
Yes. I don't know, if it's a big horse, they will use an axe from the mezcal production and just wash it and then wash it again to take it back.
Well, that's not fun.
With water.
I wanted to have a little bit of steak in my mezcal, but I guess that's not going to happen. It was just a theory.
It's just a theory. Well, I don't know how can we measure that, because again, when you're using the shredder and you have the smoke of the shredder and it gets stick to your cloth and you smell it and it smells bad, and here we have smoke from the wood. Mm-hmm. In the distillation, and you smell it, and it smells to smoke from when you're doing a carne asada or something like that.
Or like it smells like Lems on the south side. Yeah,
kind of that. Yeah, but it's very different to the combustion of the gas.
Okay.
So I think it's gonna make a difference, but I don't know if we can measure it, because I heard of people saying that, this mezcal tastes like gasoline, like tire, like petroleum.
I hear tire a lot.
Like petroleum, like.
I want to know who the hell's eating tires, by the way.
Yes, and I even read it in this things they have about
the mezcal reviews and
tire, and I'm like, I wonder how the tire tastes. I can smell it, and it has this funny smell when you have a new tire.
I think maybe what we should do, don't think new tire, like when tires get old, right? You don't want them hanging around because that's how you breed mosquitoes and that leads to dengue. So instead, let's take a tire and let's put it in the still and let's do a tire pachuga just to see if these people are correct or not.
Well,
Are you in?
I mean, you're gonna be the first one to taste it.
I will absolutely be the first
and
one
I'm
to
gonna
taste
be the
it.
second one.
And
you'll survive.
and then who's going to take us to the hospital? But but to me, like the important piece to this conversation, I mean, it's fun to talk about horse piss and human sweat, but I think the important piece of this conversation is that because these processes for making not all mezcal, like you were talking about, right? There's the industrial mezcal with everything closed and clean and simple. You know, I was invited to an industrial mezcal facility, and the guest who invited me the host who invited me at the end, we were having a beautiful lunch out on the patio. And they asked me, like, have you ever seen a cleaner facility for making mezcal? I said, honestly, I can't remember one. I said, have you ever seen a cleaner facility for making spirits? And I can't think of a single one. And he said, did you see a single bug? And I said, well, yeah, the bug. It's on my lunch plate. You're serving me bugs to eat, right? But you know, I think the important part is like.
Were you eating chapulines?
Oh, chapulines, gusanos, I think we had the flying ants, all the bugs, you know, but I think, it wasn't like there were worms crawling out of my meat. That sounds ugly. But you know, for me, the important point is I every once in a while, I'll see this pop up as a marketing position for a lot of things, but spirits in particular, and agave spirits in particular, is this is the clean option. And, you know, and I get it. People get paranoid about dirty things. But I gotta say that in my experience, the dirty things are the most delicious things, which is not meant to be a condemnation of my wife, but the most dirty things tend to be the most delicious things. And I think we you know, when we get nervous about them,
depends.
Tell me.
Well, and depends on what you. Depends on the way of you're gonna see the dirtiness, you know?
It's the, how do you mean?
Like, I always say that my palenque is very clean, and and we know it's not, we see so many flies, but I don't have dogs and hens and, you know, a lot of animals.
You don't have hands? You've got hands.
Hands, chickens.
Oh, hens. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
I have hands.
Yeah. It's all hands.
Yeah, it's all hands. Otherwise,
all hands, no hands. Yeah.
Well, I like to be professional, which doesn't mean to be dirty, you know. And part of the process is the bugs, the flies, the horse. And maybe in other places you're gonna have dogs and cats and, you know, a lot of animals, you know. And it's not the same thing as being dirty.
Is that the same thing as
being dirty or
as being dirty?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you can have a whole zoo in your palenque, but it's clean.
Yeah.
So just because they don't have flies or they don't have any dogs or cats or animals in their facility doesn't mean it's clean.
And it also, I would argue, sometimes leads to they don't have any flavor.
I haven't tried.
Okay. Unknown mezcalerx? Unless you've got something else to add that's funnier than horse piss, human sweat, and cow feces, I think we're gonna call this a wrap.
I remember 20 years ago, we have these big tinas, and it wasn't easy to move the tina.
Yeah, to get all of the agave fiber.
The tina.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
So you have to get inside the tina.
Inside the tina.
Yes. So there you have human sweat.
Yep.
in everything about
You're
the
sort of
body.
teabagging the
Yes,
fermentation.
a human
You know, the
teabag.
last time I was in a Tina was in high school. So, I like that too. So, like the whole body. Are you wearing your clothes, or are you stripped
No,
down to your
usually
underpants?
no, just underpants.
Just underpants. Tighty whities. Is there a rule?
No, there wasn't a rule, you know. It's up to you.
You know, when we used to drink wine, or we used to make wine, and they make anonymous person who knows about wine. Jump in here if I get something wrong. When they would make wine, they would crush it by stepping on the grapes.
But just a stepping.
Yeah, no teabagging. But when they would do that, when they would step on the grapes, do they still do that? Okay, many places do that. Like and they barefoot. Yeah. Okay, so when they step on the grapes, they start the fermentation. That doesn't go through distillation, and we're happy paying hundreds of dollars for those bottles. Anonymous person who knows about wine. Okay, always. He says always.
It's even more expensive.
Price goes way up if you can see the feet stomping on the grapes. So, you know, I think it gets back to that concept of like, let's just look, if it's being released in a bottle in the USA, it's probably not going to harm you. Unless, you know, like with any alcohol, you drink too much, it's going to harm you. But
Maybe, yes.
Okay. So that I think constitutes a wrap. Thanks for joining me. Unknown mezcalerx
Thank you.
from unnamed agave spirits brand. Catch you next episode. Hasta pronto.
Hasta pronto.
You've been listening to Agave Road Trip, the critically acclaimed award-winning podcast that helps Gringex bartenders better understand agave spirits, and rural Mexico. We're blessed with sound engineering by Roy Sierra and a theme song performed by Gabriel Oliveira and Marco Ricos. Sign up to become a road tripper and listen to more episodes at agaveroadtrip.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, please let us know. And if you hated it, well, I'm sure you'll let us know that too. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Agave Road Trip. Agave Road Trip is a production of 10 Angry Pit Bulls, Inc. Agave Road Trip is powered by Simplecast. Thank you for listening to Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is food radio supported by you. For our freshest content, subscribe to our newsletter. To subscribe to the Heritage Radio newsletter, enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with Heritage Radio Network on Instagram and Twitter at heritage_radio. You can also find Heritage Radio Network at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization using the power of educational storytelling about food to build a more equitable, resilient food system. Heritage Radio Network couldn't do that without support from listeners like you. Become a part of the world's most innovative community today. Subscribe to the shows you like. Tell your friends. And please join the Heritage Radio Network family by becoming a member. To become a member of the Heritage Radio Network, click on the beating heart of our homepage. Heritage Radio Network can become addictive. Programming you hear on Heritage Radio Network might lead you to eat, drink, and listen to more programming on Heritage Radio Network. If you drink, please do not drink and drive. Drink responsibly. Drive responsibly. Eat responsibly too. And listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly. To listen to Heritage Radio Network responsibly, wear protective earbuds. While wearing protective earbuds, do not drive. Do not walk either. Sit in a comfortable chair. If that comfortable chair has a hard seat, please remember to stretch every 30 minutes. If you stretch every 30 minutes, please stay within your defined stressing capacity. And consult a doctor who specializes in stretching. If you don't have a doctor, maybe Dr. Ryan Acock, the Cocktail MD, can help you out. Thanks for listening. Agave Road Trip out.